I record this, and then we'll probably like put it on YouTube or something once, if it's,
Yeah.
I don't know. And then yeah, this Zencaster thing is cool though. It works pretty good. Like yesterday, we were trying to, because like Jake was having like weird microphone stuff, so I was like, well, we'll just record like this part and then go listen to it. But it records like you separate and me separate, and then it would, it does like this post-production thing where it puts the two tracks together and like levels them and everything. But that part wasn't working yesterday.
Oh.
So I just like, to where they emailed me and they're like, stop hitting the button, it's broken. Like, just fucking knock it off.
That's got in trouble.
Yeah. But then they because it's like you pay, it's like $15 a month or whatever, and like you get so many like hours of post-production or whatever per month. And so they're like, because this was fucked up, we're gonna give you like 5 free hours. So
Yeah, sweet deals. That's kind of cool that it's a whole thing.
yeah, Zencaster. I don't know. What do you guys use?
We use nothing really. I mean for Hug Life,
soup cans and a string.
we use Zooms.
Okay.
And we record on either end now. I mean, we used to just record in the same place, obviously.
Sure.
Right now, we've been doing it over Zoom, and we each have a Zoom recorder. Too many Zooming. And then take the track from either one of ours and put them together, which works out. It sounds like we're in the same room.
Mm-hmm.
And then he levelates it with the levelator.
The levelator. It sounds like a finishing move in wrestling.
Yeah.
He hit him with the levelator.
But then my new show, I'm with a podcast studio in Seattle called Wheel, and they have cameras and the microphones and stuff that they have the open broadcast system, which I didn't know what that was until we were doing it. But then so they change the cameras and like watch everything while it's happening and then edit it for me at the end too. So that works out.
Is that like a Mike Mazzalotti thing, or is it a different place?
No, it's the same guys. Mike, I think, is still in LA. They own the one in LA, and then Nolan Culver is the other guy's name. He came back up here with his wife and opened the Seattle one.
Okay.
And it kind of worked out because I had the idea for that show, but wanted it to be video. I didn't really care to make it a podcast. And so I just posted like, would anybody just help me on Zoom? Just be able to record on Zoom. And he was like, just come into the studio, let's do it. And so they're not charging me at all, which is insane because there's so much money in that room.
Yeah.
that I'm just able to use, and they do it for me. And yeah, it's worked out because they just kind of wanted somebody to be able to like say, look, these guys do a good job in Seattle. Come use them, So I was like, perfect fucking timing. Let's do it.
Hell yeah. That's really cool.
Yeah. All right.
Cool. Yeah, so we'll get started. We've been doing like pretty much an hour is pretty standard. We'll do like a get to know you, kind of like where you from, where do you live kind of stuff, and then get into the drugs. Yeah. Yeah, the fear and loathing.
Yes.
Cool. So, well, that's not the right episode. There we go. Hello, Monica Nevi.
Hello, Jeremiah. How are you?
I'm doing really good. I haven't seen you in a long time, and it's nice to see you and nice to talk to you.
I know. It's I know how nice it is to talk to me. No, I I was talking to somebody and I was like,
the pleasure is all yours.
It's actually been helpful to be able to talk to some people kind of in the same boat, and I feel like you and I are good at kind of checking in with each other, making sure we're not getting screwed over, or just I can ask what's going on in Oregon, and I've just appreciated us being able to check in on comedy stuff, but also on personal stuff too. So
yeah, I would honestly say you've been a great resource to me in my comedy career, if that's what you want to call it, to say like, hey, how does this work? Or do you know this guy? Is he a dick, or is he just a dick to me?
That's
and you'd be like,
Yeah, I was booking a show in Oregon, and almost every show I was like, "Who is this? Am I gonna? Who is this person good? Is this?" And you were very helpful with that. So
Sure. I mean, if you just throw it out there on Facebook, like, hey, who can do an hour and wants to be on this show? Like
yeah, anyway,
anybody.
yeah,
You could get anybody that'd
cool.
be like, yeah, I was on Conan. It's like, no, you weren't. Stop saying that.
You knew a guy named Conan. Don't.
You got tickets and went to the live
Yeah,
taping of
you
Conan.
went to a Conan taping. You were not.
That is not the same thing.
That's a good credit.
No, I'm super excited about this podcast. Like, just getting to talk to my friends again is like probably like the biggest thing, where it's like, if no one listens to this, at least I've talked to my friend for an hour. Like, this has been great.
Maybe that's why so many people are like, "Oh, comedians." Well, not comedians. Everybody keeps starting podcasts during this time, and it's like, well, it gives you an excuse to talk to people for an hour or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah, I need human contact for sure. Yeah, well, and like, so, Sam Miller, and his thought process on the podcast was like, if you think you need to start a podcast, you should knit a hat and give it to a homeless person, because people need warm hats more than they need to hear your stupid fucking podcast. And so I did.
Did
I
you know?
donated some hats to a homeless shelter. I did that.
Nice.
And so now I feel like I'm, entitled to have a podcast, where I was like, okay, I gave some warm hats, and now people are going to have to listen to my stupid ideas.
Checked those boxes. Here's the
Yeah. Your barrier for entry was not so high there, Sam Miller, where you thought you could stop my podcast. I'm sure there are people that were like, "Oh, a hat? I'm not going to give somebody a hat. I guess I can't have a podcast now." But me, I'll jump through your hoops.
Whatever gets this podcast going.
Yeah. So Fear and Loathing in Tacoma, which is not specific to you, but
It's funny because when you first told me, I was like, "Is every episode a different city?"
no, it's a and it's a stupid name, because it literally is just like an inside joke from when I was in high school, where our girls basketball team was really good when I was in high school, and didn't lose an entire game my senior year. They went like 31-0, and they won the state championship for Washington State and
What high school is it?
Kennewick.
Okay.
So this was in the year 2000. So this is a while ago. I'm a lot older than you, which I forget
that was
sometimes.
the time when a young basketball playing Monica was watching high school games, but watching the older girls play. So
Okay, yeah. So our girls basketball team was like the best girls basketball team in the history of Washington State. Like, I think they are like the only team that went undefeated like that. And so our senior year, we were like, oh, we're going to the state championship. Like, we're all gonna like use this as an excuse to not go to school.
yeah.
And we're gonna take a van from Kennewick to Tacoma in the middle of the night on like a Thursday or Wednesday night, like Wednesday night, Thursday morning. So me and like 6 of my buddies were in this van, and a lot of us took some acid, and we actually made shirts that said Fear and Loathing in Tacoma on them. And
You had merch 15, 20 years before you had a podcast. There you go.
yeah, absolutely. And we got pulled over by the Washington State Patrol around North Bend. Yeah, Snoqualmie Pass.
Not
Like,
even that close to Tacoma, if you don't know.
I know. Yeah, we weren't. We had not done that good of a job geographically. And the funny thing is, it was actually, I'm sure you do, but do you remember the WTO riots?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that was like that day. And so we were like, hey, let's go to Seattle and like get in on this. Like, people are going nuts. Like, let's go. Like, we were like 17, 18 years old. It's like, let's go to there. And so we were actually like, we weren't going to go to Tacoma. We were going to go to Seattle and like break shit. And, like, we wanted to riot or whatever. And so it's probably pretty lucky that we did get pulled over by the police and get in trouble, because we didn't go riot or break anything. Yeah, it was probably like the hand of God somehow being like, maybe you don't need to go do this,
Yeah.
So
Did you get in trouble for the drug part of that
Oh
situation?
yeah. It was a bad deal. Yeah. One of the kids, like, I don't know, I'm like reluctant to tell the whole story. Like, I'm just putting like pieces of it in each podcast. You'll
Mhm.
have to listen to every podcast to get this whole story out of me. But one of the kids with us, he was our local dare officer's son.
Sorry.
So that was really bad. And he was the one who actually still had some LSD like on him, and it was like on sugar cubes. And so when we got in trouble, we got it like pulled out of the van, and the state patrol was like searching us, and they like pulled this baggie of like sugar out of this kid's pocket, and they're like, he goes, "Why do you have sugar in your pocket? Are you diabetic?" And the kid was high, and he said, "No, it's acid," which is
Yeah, I would have been like, yes, I am diabetic.
right.
Yes.
Yeah, you should have diabetes right now because we're all going to get in big trouble. And I mean, like we were smoking weed in the van, like they knew, like, like it was a bad scene. We were not being very smart. It was like we had that kind of hubris where it's like we can literally do anything we want. And then, like the Washington State Patrol was like, no,
No, you
you can't do any of this. You're all in deep shit now.
can't.
So yeah, the diabetes joke has always been kind of fun, where it was like, yes, if anybody ever asks you if you have
Mhm.
diabetes, just say yes. That
I'm
seems
I'm sure there are other correct answers in that moment, but the one wrong one is no, it's acid.
exactly yes. And it doesn't seem that hard to figure out, but this guy at that moment didn't know that. And so yeah, Fear and Loathing in Tacoma is a real thing that I have experienced, and I thought it was a cute name for the podcast. So
Yeah, I like it.
you know, um, yeah, shout out to the Kennewick Lions girls basketball team, the Lady Lions, because they
Go
were
on.
unstoppable.
Yeah.
We had some people that went on to like WNBA from that team.
Do you remember names at all? I know this isn't on topic, but
No, that's okay. Like Leilani Mitchell
okay, yeah.
was on that team. She was a freshman, and she was just lights out. Like she was so good. And yeah,
She's from Australia.
she did a couple things. I think she like has a like WNBA record for
She's still playing. Yeah, she's
yeah,
great.
like points in a game or something like that. I think I have to look it up, but yeah, she did some cool stuff. Yeah, she just lived. Her and her brothers lived right. They were on my paper route. Yeah, good. Anytown, USA, baby. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Anyway, we didn't come here to talk about high school basketball, but you played college basketball.
Yeah, I played at Seattle U.
Yeah, big deal.
Yeah.
Kind of a big deal.
Yeah, I mean it's Division One. I was injured though, so I didn't quite have the career that I would have wanted. So here we are now.
What happened?
I broke my ankle
Oh,
the day we started conditioning my freshman year,
mm,
but we kind of treated it as an ankle sprain. So I played on a broken ankle for basically half a season, which made me I redshirted. And I played my sophomore year, and just everything was kind of screwed up. We also had a new coach that didn't love me until I stopped playing, which was interesting. But so I had stopped playing my junior year, but I stayed with the team. And at that point, she loved me. We would be recruiting people, and that's when I started stand up. And so you like show them around campus and take them to lunch and stuff. And mind you, I'm not playing at this time, so I don't know why she wanted me to do these things. But then we'd be telling them about, like the library is brand new and it's really cool. And then Coach B would be like, "Well, tell them what you do." I'm like, "What?" Like I'm not even like a year into stand up, and she's like, "She does stand up." And I'm like, "Do you think that's gonna get them to come play for you? Like, what is your plan here?"
it's a
She's
weird
all,
selling point.
um, yeah, it was. So yeah, I just didn't really end up playing that much, unfortunately.
Okay.
But I don't think I would have started stand up had that not happened. So it's kind of one of these like, you
Yeah.
know, cause and
No,
effect.
the origin story is always interesting because I'm in a similar boat with some things that happened where I was like, I had a job that I thought was like going to be my career, and then I got fired because I was a dick to somebody, and probably deserved it. And then started a new job where my supervisor had like done stand up, and we just started nerding out all the time. And he was just like, "Hey, like go try it." you know, and I was like, nah, you know, I was like 30 and I was like, there's no way, like I'm too old. And, you know, like all these reasons why I couldn't do it. And then he was just like, no, really, like you have to just try it. And now I'm an international superstar, you know what I mean?
With a podcast.
With a podcast. But yeah, I mean, mostly just to talk to my friends. But one of the things that I keep asking people is like, when did we meet each other? You know, and that's been kind of fun to talk about because like comedy is so like, especially if you're like in a city together, you know, like you don't really remember when you like the first time you talked to somebody, right? Where it was like,
Yeah.
we were on the list of 30 people together, and then, you know, like we just ended up like getting like coffee or something, right? So
Right. Oh man.
I
It
had to
happens
think
to
about
me.
it.
Do you know?
Well, I think the first time we actually hung out with each other was in Chehalis when we got our pictures taken.
Oh yeah.
But
Yes. Okay. Is that the first time we met though? Or is it?
I think we had met one time before that, but I think it was like the first time we actually spoke to each other. Yeah.
It is for some reason very, this happens often to me that the other person I'll remember very specifically and go, oh yeah, we did this together, and then they'll go, oh no, actually we met before that, and I'm like, damn it. Like, you know, Cameron Mazuka, we lived together, and when he first came to like check out the apartment, I was like, because another comic had told me like, hey, this guy's looking for an apartment, he's cool, he's harmless, you know, like whatever the things you need to say now. And
He's not a weirdo or a
I,
creep.
it was kind of like an emergency situation that I needed to like get somebody in this apartment. And so he walked in, and it's not very big, you know, and I was like, well, this is this and this is this. And I go, I know we haven't met before or we haven't worked together before, but you know, this guy said you're a good guy kind of thing. And he goes, oh, we've done 3 shows together. And I was like, oh fuck. like I had no idea, didn't remember. I was like, damn it. And I mean, it, you know, turned out best friends, but
Right.
like, oh shit.
I love this podcast so far, by the way. This has been so fun because I have so many, like, you know, like I told you that I have so many, but it's like I have to like, you know, like keep some, you know,
Yeah.
so we can do this for a while. It's like, don't tell all the stories in the first episode, but once people,
I like the little like breaking it up, kind of sprinkling them through, and then
yeah,
to kind of put it together and be like, oh, that's that whole story. Okay.
oh wow, so Casey, oh man, you know, like that guy works in a jail now. Wow. But I am also like, the funnest part for me is like reaching out, like I said, like reaching out to people and saying like, hey, do you want to talk about this? And them either being like, no, I would never talk about that in public, or I don't have any experiences that fit that subject matter. And you're like, why do you have long hair? Like, who are you?
Yeah.
Like, why are you living this lie, man?
Long hair.
Like, I thought you were cool.
Yeah.
But we
like,
do not.
Actually, the way that I weed out the uncool people from your friend group, that's it.
Yeah. It's like, hey, if you can't talk on my podcast about frying balls in the woods, then you know, you're not coming to the barbecue. Gabe, sorry. I'm naming names.
Oh shit. I mean, I guess I wouldn't.
See? I know. I was surprised also. Anyway. So when did you do some psychedelics? And I'm guessing in your 20s like everybody else, but you got some stories from doing some camping like everybody?
Yeah. Yes. Is that the one? I was trying to remember which ones I had given you.
Camping in Washington? Yeah.
That was a little bit, I would say 25 or 26.
Okay.
I started smoking weed when I was like 17, but not very often. Again, was still an athlete. Then I was in college, I would smoke pot in the off season, but not during, because we could get drug tested, but it's only a certain percentage. So they pick one team, and it's only a certain percentage of that team. And so, and that's if they pick your school. So it's like the one time we did get drug tested when I was in college, it was the track team. and then 4 guys on the track team had to
Mm.
get tested, and that was it. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, so we kind of weren't too worried about, like, I had teammates that smoked the whole time, so
Yeah.
if they got caught, they would have, but nobody ever got in trouble. Even those guys that got tested, one of them was definitely like smoking the night before and didn't get in trouble for it. So I don't know if marijuana, they just didn't, like, they were looking for steroids, so they just didn't
Like,
care.
give them
No,
a break.
everybody was nervous about that, at least. So
Sure.
I mean, we'd go to parties and like the girls who were most nervous would be like, people are smoking in here. Am I going to test positive if they're smoking like around me? And we're like, I don't fucking know.
Just calm down,
Yeah.
Stacy.
Chill out. But so then it was probably, yeah, like my junior or senior year when I had done mushrooms the first time. And it was with comics. I mean, that was when I had started doing stand-up and then had like just made some friends who were, I mean, at that time I was being a bit reckless anyways. I kind of would try whatever, I guess, at the time.
Yeah, you're open.
I just lost what was I had identified myself by, which was basketball. So now I'm like, maybe I'm a drug person instead. I don't know.
Let's try some of these hats on and see which one fits.
Which one works the best? So this was years after I had first done mushrooms, and I really, really liked mushrooms. Really liked them. This, I think, it wasn't the last time I did them, but it was the last like long trip that I had, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it was Cameron, actually, we like intentionally say, we're getting mushrooms, we're going camping and taking them. Like, that's what the plan is. And it's probably like 7 people. Mostly comics. I think there was a couple of like significant others with us. And we get there, one guy, because they had already been there, is like hammered drunk and like falling over and stuff. And we weren't going to do them until the next day. So we kind of had, the day to be outside and see stuff and whatnot. And he was like convinced in the morning that he wasn't going to be able to do them. And I don't know why that made me so mad. I was like, this is the reason we came up here.
Yeah.
You made a poor decision by drinking too much. Now you fucking deal with it and you do them anyways. Like, that's what, mind you, I'd never done them hungover, so I don't know if it's like horrible. I don't know.
It's rough.
I would assume. Well, and this is the first time this time, but I did get sick this time. And I never had a problem with them before. I never got scared, never, like some people's stomachs, I've watched them like heave,
Sure.
like dry heave, and that never happened to me, so I wasn't really worried about it. But I think I had gotten in a car accident like 6 months before. And so I think it just had to do with the nerve endings in my neck, because they're like messed up now. So I think that is what ends up happening. I'll get to it.
Okay.
Which actually is what kind of made me slow down, or like just not as interested in doing it again, I think. But so the next morning we're up, we take them, and it's like by far the most intense. Like, I feel like my skin is breathing, and like, just, it wasn't scary though, but it was just like, whoa, this is like a next level. Cameron had done them quite a few times, and at one point we looked at each other and just went like, this is different. This is more than other times. He's like, this is the most intense, right? I was like, yeah, I don't know. Like, what?
I'm just checking to make sure everybody else is gone to level 10 so far.
And so there's like this river down there. We all go down there, and everyone's kind of having their own experience. That's kind of the fun part about, I think, psychedelics in general, is that you and I could do the same thing and not have the same experience at all.
Absolutely.
And so you kind of get into what's going on for you. And so we're kind of walking back and forth and just looking at different stuff. And this other guy, Brent Flyberg, I don't know if you know him, but
we're naming names, Brent.
Yeah, him and I keep kind of like looking at the same stuff and being like, what does that look like to you? What does that look, we're just like going, and everyone else is like stuck where they are, like they can't move. And
Gotcha.
So I had like skin cancer stuff a couple of years before that. And at some point it dawns on me very like, I don't know, just like all of a sudden that I shouldn't be in the sun.
It's cooking you. The sun is cooking you. Right. And that's bad.
Yes. And so I'm like, oh no. So there's like this bridge. So I go and sit under the bridge, and I'm sitting there for like a good 20 minutes. And I look down, and I have a bit about this, but there's a rock, and it looks like Barbara Streisand to me. Like that's what it looks like. So then I spend the next 20 trying to decide if I should tell people that or not, because I know in my head they probably won't see the same thing. And at some point, it just becomes so important that I feel like I need to see what they see or something. Or maybe this rock really does just look like Barbara Streisand.
Is it like a young like Yentl Barbara
Well,
Streisand, or like older?
what I think it turns out to be is a combination of Barbara Streisand and the mouse from Thumbelina, like the one that tries to like dress her up, and uh, she wants her to marry the mole. That's the song.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. And so it's the nose really is what I think is coming out to me the most. And I tell Cameron, who's sitting in the river, and he looks at me and he goes, I can't move. Like I can't come up there. And I was like, okay. But I'm looking at his face, and in my head I'm like, okay, stay calm, because this is clearly not really what his face looks like. But he's looking at me, and he looked like a jack-o'-lantern, like a scary, like his mouth was huge, and like just like if you tried to carve it to have like sharp ass teeth and stuff, like that's what he looked like. And I was like, okay. And so Brent comes over.
Stay in the river over
Yeah.
there.
Nope, that's good. Brent comes over and he looks at it, and I'm like, this rock looks like Barbara Streisand. And he's like, he was so nice about it. He was like, oh, I could see that. I'm like,
Sure.
think you could. But then I say, but if she was a mouse. And so that's when and he kind of was just like, oh, sure. Like, I don't think he really.
That second layer to it didn't really.
Yeah, it didn't help him. So I
No.
was like, okay, whatever. And then I realized I have to pee. So I go, this river is so cold. And so I'm like kneeling in the river. I forgot about this part. But it's so cold that I have to like really focus, stuff doesn't work when you're too cold because
Sure.
constricts, how it goes. And I am forgetting what I'm doing, but I'm staring directly at Cameron, like right in the eyes while I'm
Of the jack-o'-lantern.
yeah. I'm just like standing. He's like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm trying to pee. And he's like, stop looking at me in the eyes. Like, okay.
Like a dog when they go poop and they make eye contact with you. Like, why are you doing that?
And I do it like 3 more times because I just keep having to go to the bathroom down there. But so it's starting to like wear off. And I don't know, in your experience, I like to check in with myself all the time, like as I'm coming down, and kind of be like, okay, that's a little less, that's a little, or going up, you're like, okay, this is different, this is different. So I'd gone back up to like the campground area. And I remember sitting in this chair and just staring at the trees, and I kept going, okay, they're moving still. I mean, you can tell, obviously not moving, like just wind, I would know that, but everything moves. I don't know. It looks like a lava lamp or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah.
The planet breathes in a way. Yeah, I get you. Yeah.
And so I just kept having that thought of like, okay, they're still moving, so I'm not like down yet.
Don't call mom or anything. Yeah.
Right. And I know that we like had to have looked so weird, because at one point we're down at the river, and this guy with his 2 kids comes down, and I look at him and I'm like, hey, like trying to be like, what's up? And be normal. And then they're down there for 30 seconds and immediately leave. And I was like, oh, we must look.
Get back to the van, kids.
Yeah, exactly.
Look at these weirdos.
So I'm up there by myself. Karen and Brent come up at some point. We're talking, and then they're like, okay, we're going to go back down to the river. Do you want to go? And I'm a non-confrontational person. I'm pretty like, oh, okay, I'll do whatever. I don't want to be the decision maker. And I don't know what it was, but they go, do you want to come down with us? And I go, no, I don't. And I'm like, just say it like that. And then they're like, okay, they asked me another question. I don't know. Do you want me to get you something? And I just go, no, I don't. 2 other people come up, they're like, we're going to go for a walk. Do you want to come with us? And I was just like, no. So I just sit in this chair. Those 2 go for a walk. The other ones go back down to the river. So I'm alone, just kind of continuing to watch things. And the next thing I know, the 2 people who went on the walk come back, and they are freaking out. And he's like, we stepped on this anthill and then they like crawled all over us and I got all these bites and stuff. And he's like, I stopped. I stopped the ranger that was there. He stopped the ranger that was there and was like, do we need to go to the hospital? Oh my God. And he's like looking at his leg and he goes, does this look bad to you? Does this look bad? Like screaming at the ranger. And I'll be honest, his legs did look really red.
Okay.
But the next morning there was nothing there at all. So I don't really know what happened.
He's probably scratching it or whatever. Yeah.
It was weird.
It's weird when like nature sort of like will cut through everything else that's going on, you know, like something like that, where it's like, oh, these are things that are alive and they can hurt me,
right.
You know, where it's like, oh, this was all very fun in games like 5 seconds ago.
Yeah.
And now there's ants biting me and I want no part of it. And like, I'm going to see if this park ranger can like, you know, save me. What a weird
it was so
like thought process.
And he was just freaking out. So then we're like, oh, it's definitely coming down. It's later in the evening. You got to walk to go to these bathrooms though. And you know, this place was like, it wasn't like right off the highway campsite. It was like dirt road, you know, porta potty type of situation. So we're walking to, and this is really far away from where we lived too, probably 2-hour drive.
Okay.
And because of course we're like, we don't want to run into anybody that's going to like, you know, we work with or something.
Sure.
And so there's like 5 of us walking to the bathroom area.
And it's light? Like it's like daytime? Okay.
Still light out. It's probably 4 or 5 at this time. And we had started at probably 9 or 10. And so everybody's, you know, but you're kind of like that lethargic, but you're still moving a little bit, you know. We go to the bathroom, we start walking back, and this car pulls up next to us. We were like, uh-oh. You know, we thought we were in trouble. And the person in the passenger seat leans forward, and it is another comic named Nam, who I had done mushrooms with. Most times that I had done mushrooms were with him before. And he's like, what are you guys doing here? And we're like, oh, we're just camping, you know, whatever. And we're like, what are you doing here? And he's like, well, we were driving around, we thought we would camp. He was like with some girl, I think they were, you know, just starting to date kind of thing. And that's all we've said. And he leans farther over and he goes, are you guys on mushrooms? And we all went, yeah.
I'm just going to take a shot in the dark here.
Yeah.
Just.
Again, I'm like, what the fuck do we look like?
Yeah. Dude.
Nailed it.
I can remember there was like a long night where someone just, you know, like I've talked about this a lot, that there was times where it was like, let's go out in the woods and like, you know, be part of nature. And then there was other times where it was just like, I was in college at a party and someone was like, hey, these, you know, these certs breath mints have acid on them. And I would just eat them. Right. And then, you know, like whatever happened. Right. And one of those times the next morning, you know, like sun comes up and someone's like, dude, we gotta like smoke a bowl or whatever. So let's go down by the river and like, you know, where we won't be near people, not thinking that it's like, now it's Sunday morning and every jogger in town is like running along the river. And we're just like these 3 fried out kids, you know, like trying. And it was like, this is like the worst place we could have come to not be around. Yeah, there's nothing weird going on here, you know, and it's like pretty obvious immediately to everybody around you. Like I love the guy with his kids were like, get back to the van.
Yeah. And I've been around people who were drunk, been around people who were like on cocaine.
Sure.
Or ecstasy, and that is like, okay, yeah, that's way different, you know, like you can tell. But I don't think I've been around someone who's on acid or mushrooms when I haven't been. And then I'm like, I don't really know. I'm sure obviously it would be, I guess you would be able to tell, but I'm like, I don't really know what that looks like. You know, when people are on cocaine, I know immediately, you know, you're like, well, that one's obvious.
Yeah, people are blackout drunk or whatever. Yeah.
Right.
But then, yeah, there's a level of just like, because I've actually been in that situation and then found out after the fact, you know, and they're like, oh, I was on mushrooms that day. Right. And you're like, oh, that makes a lot of sense, actually. Okay. God, why didn't you just say that? You know, or it's just like this whole different But what you look like, of course, you know, like is sort of that like Hunter S. Thompson, right? Where they're like trying to check into the hotel and everything seems a certain way, but then there's like, oh, this is like the break the fourth wall and see like what actually is happening.
Exactly.
Like just people acting insane, you know, like jack-o'-lantern head dude like peeing in the river, you know,
Right.
and
Well,
you're
and
like,
then we're just like staring up at the top of shit. Like it's the weird.
no, normal people just do that, you know, like normal people see Barbara Streisand and
I
then have to
remember
tell
one
everybody.
one time I was very like I think I was on the way up and it was a different time. So we're in someone's house and my friend he stands up and then he would freeze. Like he would be doing something and then he would freeze. Like he got scared or something. So he gets up to go to the bathroom and then he just stops and he's staring at the ground with his arms like up or like he's yeah, I don't know. So I looked at him and I go, "Hey, are you okay?" And he goes, "Yeah, what?" And I was like, "What? Like you just paused. What?" Like I felt crazy for asking him and then he started to move again and then stopped again and was just staring at the ground. I was like, "Are you okay?" And he's like, "Uh-huh. What? What's going on?" Like didn't notice and it was driving me crazy because I was like, is it him or me? Who's doing this? You know, am I seeing this or is he fucking not? What is happening?
Somebody is not right here. And I
Right.
don't want it to be me,
Right.
but it could be me.
Asking everyone, I'm like, he's stopping, right? Like, what the hell?
You guys see this?
Yeah,
That's always a good question. Like, do you guys
right.
see this?
I've been on
Yeah,
stage a few times when like the microphone will start to click or something, you know, something weird's happening. I'm like, you guys hear that too, right? Like,
sure.
it's me.
No, there's a real like one of the gals I work with has the smoke detector that's chirping, but she can't hear
You
it.
can't hear it. That's what
She
my grandpa had his fucking watch alarm set for years and couldn't hear it all. Dude, can you change that, please? Oh god.
All right, so I'm interested in this story about the convulsions though.
Oh yeah. Um,
I want to know more about that
it
because
was
that
the
sounds
same.
kind of scary.
It was the same guys. There was two of them. That the one that had found us actually, uh,
Okay.
and then our other friend. And so we would do them at Nam's house, and they both about 20 minutes in every time, their stomach would start to hurt, and then they'd like, I think it made them feel better, but they'd like tighten it up so it looked like they were like gonna throw up,
Okay.
but they wouldn't, and then it would go away in a couple minutes, maybe 5 minutes, but for a while it looked horrible, like head down laying on the ground like convulsing basically, and I'm like, are they okay? You know, and
But
mine,
it was like more of a control, like it was something they were doing to try to feel better. They
maybe,
weren't just like like uncontrollably like shaking,
yeah, and they
like
weren't it wasn't making like a, you know, like a gonna throw up noise type
or
of thing,
like a
but it was,
Pentecostal
he has like their
like
whole body was
church
tightening up. Yeah,
people like
exactly.
that's what I when I read that I was like, okay, which is funny because it is definitely a through line of every episode of this podcast will be we have to talk about vomit, you know, like every story so far has been like and then I threw up.
Well, here's the perfect ending to this then. That night, the camping night, this is why I've been wary to do them very often after this. The camping night, I've never had this happen before. I try to go to sleep and I wake up and I have the worst headache I've ever had in my life.
Oh
And
wow.
it was like I tried to move, I was like in the fetal position, like just it was horrible. And I thought maybe it was just from laying on, like the ground was hard
Sure.
and it was making me feel really sick. And so I got up and I threw up like on the path. um,
The one place that wasn't nature.
yeah, exactly. You're right there. And just like it felt I could sleep after that. You know, like my head didn't hurt as bad, which was weird to me. But for a
Yeah.
long time, I felt like it was because of the mushrooms. So I was like, I don't know if I want to do it again, but I think it's really more. I've done them since, but not as many, I guess, or like as much. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Um, so yeah, that was kind of, but and I don't throw up very often. Like if I'm drinking or anything, I don't throw up. I hadn't really thrown up from drugs before that, so I was a little nervous, but it was so long afterwards that it wasn't like, oh, my stomach's bothered from putting them in there. It was just some weird, like, I don't know, all full body thing.
Sure. Well, and
Yeah.
so you think it might have had something to do with the car accident also? Like
Yeah, I think well, because my
that
head
made
hurt
your
so
neck
bad.
hurt?
Yeah, so I felt like it was coming from that at first. I don't know if it was just a combination of things or just the mushrooms made my brain do different stuff and it was already in weird nerve damage area. I don't know.
I'm not a doctor.
Yeah, I'm not a
I'm
doctor.
just a
I haven't
kid
told
under a
them either. I'm like, so since that car accident, it's been hard for me to do mushrooms.
right. I was just talking to my buddy about this when we were in Missoula, Montana. God, this almost 20 years ago. And like I got drunk and I threw up and then like there was like blood in like my sinus like afterwards, right?
Yeah.
And so one of our buddies was in the hospital. And so I asked the nurse, I was like, hey, sometimes when I get drunk and I throw up, there'll be like blood in my sinuses afterwards. Like, what do you think that is? And she looked at me and was like, well, I just don't think you should get so drunk that you throw up. And I was like, well, that's not really what I'm asking you, you know, like
Look, I
if
don't
I,
need your judgment. I
yeah,
just
like if I went to the mechanic and was like, hey, you know, when I push my Camaro over 125, like it starts to make a weird noise, he's not just going to tell me not to go 125, right? Like they're going to try to fix the symptoms. I don't know if that's the best analogy, but it's just like, hey, you know, sometimes when I do mushrooms, I really feel like this car accident is holding me back. Like, what do you think we should do about this, doc? You
yeah,
know?
should I get some help with my neck because I can't do mushrooms or because I have headaches every fucking day? Oh god.
Yeah. So yeah, the vomiting is definitely a real thing.
There you go.
It's a through line for sure. But so to go back to the convulsing people, and then this was like, so you do them during the day on Sunday, like for like you would watch football or just like,
We wouldn't watch anything because it would like I don't know. We tried to play video games one time, like old video games, and I was just staring at it. Like we'd go in his backyard usually and just talk and stare at the sky and stuff. I don't know. But yeah, but it was like an 8 hour thing, you know. I mean, that was a full Sunday. It was a good
but
time.
then you got stuck in a mirror.
Oh yeah.
Tell me about that.
Um, they always say not to look in the mirror when you're on mushrooms, right? And so I
Yeah.
was like, trying
Depends.
not to when I was going to the bathroom, and then I just started looking at the mirror, and it was like because some people would say that their face decays, like it looks like you're getting older.
Sure.
And mine didn't. It was changing, and it didn't look like me. Was the thing that got me like stuck staring at it.
Yeah.
Was because I was like, I know that's my face. I can feel it. That's it. But it doesn't look like me. And then it would change. And I think I was waiting for it to finally look like my face. But it just never did. So then I finally get out of there, you know, and they're like, what the hell happened to you? And I was like, it's the mirror. I got stuck in the mirror, you know. And so then I have to pee again later. And I'm like, oh no, I'm going to get stuck again. And I go and I specifically try to look straight down so that I don't like see any of the mirrors. And then it's like one of those shag bath mats. And it's like, it looks like a garden like growing over itself. And
The
so then I'm
vines.
just
Yeah.
staring at the bath mat for just equal amount of time where I just get stuck down there. So
This bath mat is aging at a weird rate. Yeah.
it
What
does
is,
look like the bath mat, but
yeah. And I mean, looking at your face is one thing, but I don't know if you've ever like, do you ever get real close and look into your own eyes? Like that's really what you want to avoid. Cause I mean, it's like kind of cool for a minute, but then yeah, like
maybe that's what the more like scary part is.
before you know it, it's Tuesday and you've just been like staring
In the bathroom.
at your own eyes. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
you gotta be careful.
Just looking at anything, I feel like.
Well, yeah. So the moral of the story is like, be careful looking, you know,
Just close your eyes.
yeah, you know,
No,
that
that's
can
the
be,
cool part too.
yeah, you know, but don't be afraid, you know, just ride that ride, you know. I mean, that's what I love about it. We are getting to the end here. I do want to hear where people can find you. Tell people what they can watch and how to keep up so they bring you sweatpants to your next show.
Yeah. Everything is my name. So at Monica Nevi, Nevi, monicanevi.com, all that stuff. I have 2 albums out. One's called Mostly Finger Guns, that is stand up. One is a guided meditation album called Chill.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, and actually that is dirtier than the stand up album. So there you go.
I like
and
it.
then I have a new show coming out. It'll be on YouTube, and I think we're going to do an audio version too. And that is called Dumb Pitches, which is on my YouTube. Again, if you just search my name, that'll come up. And I talk to, the tagline is, we talk to successful people about their worst ideas. So they get to tell us about a bad idea that they had, and then the audience gets to decide if it was really a bad idea or if they might be interested in seeing that happen.
Okay, so there's like a Shark Tank element at the end where they're like,
yeah.
no, we're doing this.
Yeah.
You thought it was a dumb idea, but we're
gonna see.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you coming on and talking to us. And I don't know who us is because it's just me sitting in a room. The dog is here, but no, I think it's great. And I love you. And thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This is super fun, and I'm excited to see it when it comes out.
Great. Talk to you soon.
All right.
Great job.
Good. All right.
No, it was really good. Did you have fun?
Yeah, that was fun. That was great. I think this is going to be a good kind of listen to the other ones. I do enjoy hearing these stories.
No, it's so like I'm just like banging them out too. Like, so this is the 4th one I've done this week.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And so, and then I have like 4 more scheduled for next week. So by the time I think I'm going to release on either the 5th or the 12th, I have a new laptop coming. So like, this is my work laptop, which is like a awesome laptop, but I can't download like anything to edit. Yeah, I'm not an administrator on it. Yeah. So I can't put Audacity or like Bandcamp or anything on it. So I just bought a new laptop yesterday on Amazon, and so it's coming, but it's supposed to get here on Wednesday, and I think if I have time to do it, I'm going to try to put one out on Friday. But yeah, I mean, this is the 4th one. And it's like, so now I know that I can like pick the ones that I think like turned out the best. Like the first one I did was with Jason Traeger, who I love and is like probably done more psychedelics than like everybody combined.
Yeah.
But it wasn't that fun. Like we just did, like, I don't know. It's just like part of it was like me figuring out like how to interview somebody and like ask questions of people that I already know the answer to and that kind of stuff. Right. Where it's like,
yeah.
But the last couple have been really good. So like Rick Wood, I don't know if you know him. Yeah. You went to lunch. He went to lunch with us in Los Angeles at Trejo's Tacos.
I don't think I know people, but I do. It's a whole thing.
Yeah, when you guys end up like on a bill together, he'll be like, "Yeah, we had tacos together." That's how he talks. But the one I did with him was really fun. And then I just talked to Jake, who obviously like who did like ayahuasca in fucking Peru and shit. So like,
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, he had super crazy stories, and just like the format of like doing like 30 minutes of just like, hey, who are you? What are you about? Blah, blah, blah. And then like 30 minutes of like, this is how shit got fucked up. Like,
yeah,
I think has been really fun. And it is hard for me to like not tell my stories all the time, because it's like part of it is the questionnaire has really been good, because then it's like, okay, like I've had similar experiences, so I can sort of like match up like, oh, this is what I'll talk about, right?
Yeah.
And then it also just like kind of gets me going where it's like, fuck, I kind of did a lot of drugs. Like, you know, like I'm 4 episodes in and I haven't even scratched the surface, you know, where it's like,
kept asking me questions. I was like, oh yeah, shit, I forgot that happened. Oh yeah, that story, you know, like, oh, I did more than I thought.
Right. Which I thought was cool with the questionnaire, where it was like I don't know if you ever listened to the Crab Feast, which was like, I loved the Crab Feast.
Yeah, I mean, I've worked with some of those guys, but I haven't.
Sure.
Listened to it.
And it was like, you could always tell that they like knew the stories, where they would be like, you know, like I was just like, hey, tell me about this, you know, and it was like, so I talked to Brant Tobler about it and was like, how did they know all that stuff? And he's like, yeah, we would just talk like ahead of time and like get everything like kind of worked out what you were going to talk about. And so I just sort of came up with the idea of like doing the questionnaire, and then definitely seeing people's responses has been like, oh yeah, okay, like, you know, it like gives me a direction to kind of go in ahead of
Yeah, well,
time.
it gives us more time to be like, let me actually think about those instead of on the spot. You're like, oh, I should have said this, you know. So
I think
that
it's
works.
cool.
Yeah, I think it works out well. Well, I'm excited for you, and I'm glad I got to do it. And Aaron just got home, so I should probably go say hello
Okay.
to him.
It's looks like you're still uploading, so don't close your computer. Don't slam the laptop closed or anything. But
Okay, so from Zencaster, that needs to stay up. I mean, I can say leave all this up if you want, but
no, yeah, you can. We can close the Zoom meeting for sure. But when you go, yeah,